Happy day, nerders! For today's assignment, I'm actually going to be shocking my therapist for a change and taking their advice. See, I suffer from a condition which are called night terrors, which are absolutely horrible. But as a way of trying to combat it, he suggested I make a sculpture of one to try to alleviate myself. So I'm going to be sculpting the very first one I ever had. So sit back, relax, as I provide some much unneeded nightmare fuel. Because it's nightmare time. Inside my mind. I'll be starting off today's lifelong curse by making custom eyes, which are made using 5mm glass cabochons and a handful of nail polishes and a Chico stick. Unlike my other projects, I unfortunately will not have a lot of context on the creature or abnormality outside of what I experience each time it sprawls itself into my dreamland, turned it into a complete hellscape I'm crippled with for hours on end. I do not know its name, where it originated from in my psyche, why it randomly appears, or what to do ultimately to erode it from my life. All I know are the visuals I am left with from my past several encounters. Based on the horrid idioms it tells me, I know she's female, she doesn't have arms, she has extremely long protruding horns with spikes, and I've never seen her feet because, as traumatic as this is going to sound, normally they're impaling the ground nearby, or they're inside of me somewhere while she's violently yelling in my face. Great times. Moving on, the eyes are roughly taking an hour to dry, so I'll start shaping out the creature with 10-gauge armature wire and aluminum foil. The feature legs are initially wrapped in a ball, and then off camera I will cut down the middle to create separate appendages. I'll follow this by shaping out the head area and the large horns with another piece of armature wire, and once the horns are shaped to my sad recollection, I'll add more foil to lock them in place, followed by foil to shape out the large gorge of a mouth area, with everything then covered in Super Sculpey Ultralight, and the creature's eyes will then get pushed into place, with everything baked at 275 degrees for roughly 20 minutes. Once the outer layer is hardened and fully cooled down, as normal, it's time to clay it up with my clay of choice, Super Sculpey and Original. One of the most horrific attributes of this manifestation is the mouth, which has extremely long, slimy, pulsating tongues. To make it easier on myself in the future, I'm going to be making two, and I'll need to make some holes to drill them in, so this is my excuse to do so this week. We reached a moment this week where what you see on screen is self-explanatory, so let's go over exactly what night terrors are and why they're horrible. According to the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, night terrors are a sleep disorder in which a person quickly awakens from sleep in a terrified state. The cause is unknown, but night terrors are often triggered by fever, lack of sleep, or periods of emotional tension, stress, or conflict. Because the cause is unknown, as my therapist reminds me often, it can be extremely hard to navigate and also treat, as there are also no known treatments to alleviate them. They are a step above from a standard nightmare, and I can speak for myself, they are immensely damaging and borderline embarrassing to go through. Mine are normally more common during the winter months, but some of my worst episodes came a few weeks into the spring roughly 3 years ago. The last one that I had in the springtime, I didn't sleep for almost an entire day afterwards. While my past episodes are extremely traumatic, I do have hope. With certain caloric and lifestyle changes, they aren't as frequent as they were before, and my therapist, as I often joke about, has provided me a plethora of exercises to do to calm myself, which all have been very helpful. I don't want to turn this into a therapy session of sorts, but if you do suffer from night terrors, anxiety, depression, or any combination of the above, just know it's going to be okay. All the battles will make you stronger. I do encourage all of you to seek help, whether it's through family, professional guidance, or even through counseling. Over time, you're going to get stronger. Trust me, you will start to see everything become more in place, and you will find peace within yourself. And obviously, if you see the creatures I make weekly, I am nowhere near perfect. But the point that I'm making is the steps I'm allowing myself to take just to not live in fear, but I'm choosing to try to walk through peace. As I say often, I believe in all of you, and you got this. And if you don't, it is okay. I'll believe in you until you're ready. As you can see, the horns on this abomination have an array of spikes, so once I have the left side complete, I mirror the other side, and then I will follow up with detailing her face, which has haunted my dreams roughly half of my life. With the face detail to my personal horror, she's going to get balls of clay added to her spinal column and blended in, and once her proverbial spine is attached, I'm going to add her final 2 horns on the top of her head, which are made out of Sculpting Primo in black. Once her horns are blended in, I take a relaxing hour adding the final details, which are lumps, bumps, and jagged pieces to her frame, and then we can get back to making her base while she's baking. As with the majority of my bases, I start out with a scrap piece of foam and then shape out a hill of sorts out of aluminum foil that I will use foam safe glue to lock it in place. Then I'll bring out the star of the show for this week's endeavor. This week's base is going to be made with plaster of Paris, some glitter flakes for ambiance, orange and brown acrylic inks, and glossy Mod Podge, which will then get smeared all over the foil and her legs to lock her in. For added details, while the plaster is drying, I'm going to add some scrap pieces of plaster from past projects and also some plastic branches I got from Michaels. And for her mouth, I do make some extra tons off screen and will glue them in place as well. Once all of the above is complete, it is time to get painting. As always, my paints of choices are always acrylic inks from Dollar Rowney. I'll start with painting the foam and outer rim of the base in matte black, which will then be followed with the scarlet red in varied areas of the base for dimension. Once this is complete, her lower torso is going to get painted in matte orange, and her head area gets coated in sepia brown. Once her face is painted, both of her horns will be painted in straight black, and then I will then dust her frame in black to blend the 2 colors together for a quote-unquote evil sense. Now, every time I've ever seen her, she's had the word fear in some form of Sanskrit across her torso, which I personally cannot do. So a way around this for me is to do a thin spelling of the word in black, which I will then go over with orange nail polish with a blacklight activated effect for the creepy side. The absolute final steps of this torture session I self-impose is to take Fabri-Tac across her tons, then I will follow this with a dripping light red somewhat pink nail polish around her mouth to make it appear as drool. Then once all this is applied, normally I would offer to go to the Never place, but this week, if you would all join me in helping abolish this stain from my mind, while we're letting her have her final moment to shine. If you enjoyed this week's video, I wholeheartedly mean this. I truly appreciate all of you. This was very much cathartic for me, and it's something I wanted to do for a long time, but was obviously fearful. Not sure if this is going to help me at all, or if I'm adding to it now that I can actually see her in person, let alone the thoughts in my head sometimes. But all the same, if you enjoyed this week's session, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then set bell notifications for all the future updates when I upload. I'll be back next week with some more fun. Until then, stay blessed, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time, folks. Take care.